The Kansas City Chiefs are looking to become the first team in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. As long as Patrick Mahomes is under center, as long as Andy Reid is calling the shots, it would be foolish to doubt that this team has what it takes to win their 3rd straight Super Bowl. I'm breaking down all 32 NFL teams, so hit that subscribe button, like this video, and let's get talking about all things Kansas City Chiefs to help you get ready for the 2024-2025 NFL season. Well, before we talk about their outlook for this season, we have to do a little bit of reflecting on the 2023 season. It looked like Kansas City was absolutely dead in the water. They had no sauce, and they were embarrassed on Christmas against the Raiders. And they were sitting at 9-7. It looked like this team was seriously flawed and did not have what it took to become a repeat champion last year. There were so many issues with their pass catchers. Travis Kelce looked old. Even Mahomes looked mortal at times, and this offensive line was clearly struggling. Still, you got the best quarterback in the NFL under center, and this team was able to finish the season 11th in EPA on offense and 12th in success rate. But the real story for the Chiefs last year was how good their defense was. This team finished 6th in EPA per play, despite the fact that they were only 24th in turnover EPA. What that means is this team was able to be one of the best defensive teams in football without forcing turnovers, which is a very difficult thing to do. To add on to that, this team faced one of the toughest opposing schedules, and they were able to put up some of these great numbers, like finishing 3rd in passing EPA. And the one thing that they allowed other teams to do was run the football on them, as they finished 28th in rush EPA. But as we know now, the NFL is a passing league, so teams are okay with letting guys run all over them as long as they can shut down the big play and the big pass. Now, from some betting numbers, this team finished 11-6 straight up, 9-8 against the number, and they went 11-5-1 to the under. And that was obviously a testament to how good this defense was. And as we know, it all ended with an AFC West title, an AFC championship, and a Super Bowl ring. Now let's look at the 2024 market and the schedule the Chiefs are facing this upcoming season. The Chiefs' win total is set at 11.5. They're minus 600 to make the playoffs, minus 230 to win the AFC West, 3-1 to win the AFC, and 5-1 to win the Super Bowl. Unsurprisingly, they're the chalk because they have the best quarterback in football, the best head coach, and probably the best defensive coordinator in all of football. In my power ratings, I have the Kansas City Chiefs as the number 1 team in the NFL. And it also helps that they're facing a much easier schedule this season. Right now, the opening line has them favored in all but 2 games so far this year, but I have them favored in all but 1 game, and that is the Super Bowl rematch in San Francisco. Other things to note, Kansas City has an early bye, and they play 3 primetime games in the first 5 weeks of the season. Now, the early bye seems like a very difficult thing, but they have a good rest advantage because they do play on Black Friday and on Christmas. Game obviously happening on Friday, and that Christmas game is on a Wednesday. So they'll have opportunities to recoup some of this rest. It actually ends up being one of the most well-rested teams in the NFL, and we know how impactful that is, especially for older guys like Travis Kelce. Looking at some other schedule quirks, the most brutal stretch for this team is weeks 1 through 4. They start off with Baltimore, Cincinnati, Atlanta, and the Chargers. That's a tough schedule. And then weeks 14 through 17, where they face the Chargers, the Browns, the Texans, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers on Christmas. Now, these are matchups against teams that are expected to make the playoffs. But with that being said, you got to beat the best to be the best, and the Chiefs have shown in the Patrick Mahomes era that that's not an issue for them. Let's look at their roster and what they did this offseason. Offensively, pass catcher was the biggest issue for the Chiefs last season. Now, this offseason, we saw Rashee Rice, their stud rookie, get into a bunch of legal trouble, some immaturity issues, and his status is up in the air. But what this team did is they decided to select Xavier Worthy in the 2024 draft. They traded up to get that pick, and they also signed Hollywood Brown. But the game is won in the trenches, and this offensive line is also very weak. They lost Donovan Smith, and they don't really have a clear-cut replacement, and Jawan Taylor did not really play that well last season. Now, the Chiefs will need to hope that one of their draft picks or a training camp standout could really turn into a starting, high-contributing player. The interior of their offensive line is good, but as we know, the tackle position is really important, and right now the Chiefs are devoid there, but Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks at avoiding sacks. Defensive side of the ball, they lost to Jarius Sneed, but with Steve Spagnuolo calling the shots defensively, this team should be in good standing. They had insane metrics like I went over on defense last year against a very, very tough defensive schedule in terms of the opposing offenses. So with Spags' creativity, still studs like Chris Jones, and an easier schedule, the Kansas City Chiefs defense should be in a position to be good again this year. Now let's look at their 2024 outlook and some ways to maybe bet on the Chiefs this year. The Chiefs win total is set at 11.5, and if you want to go fade the Chiefs, go ahead and do that and let me know in the comments, but you will not catch me fading the Kansas City Chiefs win total. Since 2000, Andy Reid has gone over his win total at a 75% clip, and with the Kansas City Chiefs, he's gone over 9 out of 11 times, and the only 2 times he did not go over his win total, he missed it by just a half game. So this is a team that you absolutely should not be fading in the preseason. Yeah, you can make the case that the number is a little bit inflated because, of course, you have the Patrick Mahomes tax that you're paying and the Super Bowl winning tax, the 2-time Super Bowl winning tax these last 2 years. But with that being said, this team is always prepared. This team is always does well in the regular season. And, of course, they have the best head coach quarterback tandem in the NFL. But looking at this year, pass catcher is still an issue. Travis Kelce looked old, and players look much different in December, January than they do in September, October. So even if he gets off to a hot start, it's tough for an older, aging Kelce to rely on him as your number one option like the Chiefs have had the last couple of seasons. And like I mentioned, offensive line is definitely an issue for this team. Having great interior offensive linemen is a plus for the Kansas City Chiefs, but the fact that their tackle spots are tough is always going to be difficult when it comes to the NFL because this game is won in the trenches. Also, on the flip side of the ball, the defense is probably going to take a step back because they were playing at an absolute unreal level, and now they lost L'Jarius Sneed. But Steve Spagnuolo, like I mentioned, is one of the best in the business, and you can't forget that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football by a wide margin. Simply put, he is him. Now, how I would say you should bet on the Kansas City Chiefs is to just be patient. Last year, during their sluggish start, and even right before the playoffs started, you could have found the Chiefs at 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. And if you bet that, you were a very happy bettor. And if you bet them preseason, you were sitting on a terrible number. So the best way to bet on the Chiefs is to show some patience, let things play out a little bit, and then pick and choose the number that you think is right. They have a tough early stretch of games, like I mentioned, but I still project this team as a 12-5 team that wins the AFC West, has a number 1 seed in the AFC playoffs, and has the potential to win a Super Bowl. Like we saw last year, the Chiefs did not have the number 1 seed. They had to go on the road, and guess what? It didn't matter because they have the great equalizer. And again, this is not a team you should ever look to fade in these future markets. Game to game, want to fade them, take some points to the other team. I completely understand that. However, with an easier schedule and with the talent that they have, the Kansas City Chiefs are certainly a fixture, and they have exactly what it takes to be the first team in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. Hit that sub button. I'm breaking down all 32 NFL teams. Hit that like button and let me know in the comments how you guys are betting the Kansas City Chiefs this season.